Rocks Pirates were the deadliest crew ever assembled, and today we're breaking down every monster that made up this legendary pirate crew. Starting with a newly confirmed Rocks pirate in Miss Buckingham Stussy. No, not that Stussy, but this Stussy, who much like her height, has shortened her name to just Miss Bucket. That's right, Bucket was once a Rocks pirate, and now that we know her full story, it's not that hard to see why. If her clone shows a true reflection of her powers, that means Bucket is either a real vampire or has a mythical zoan of a vampire or succubus. And I lean towards it being a mythical zoan, especially because Kaido got his mythical zoan at God Valley. But either way, this power is no joke, as the Stussy clone easily handled Lucci and Kaku with a little help from some sea stone lipstick. So power-wise, I'd put Bucket on the B tier of the Rocks pirates. Not incredibly strong, but she can handle herself. The same cannot be said for her these days though, because all she's been doing is hunting down that child support from Whitebeard. Now, when I first heard about Edward Weevil, my initial thought was,
"You are not."
But upon a closer look to Miss Bucket's story, the answer is not that simple. Because in a recent chapter, Bucket points directly to Vegapunk as someone who can prove Weevil's lineage. Which is a weird point to make because, like, was he just watching in the background with his big ass head sticking out? Or is Edward Weevil actually a clone of Whitebeard made by Dr. Vegapunk while Stussy was with the Mats as a freeloader? This makes the most sense to me, as first off, Weevil is 35 years old, which means he was born after the Rocks Pirates had already disbanded 38 years ago, but he does have insane strength and some resemblance to Whitebeard, so maybe he's a failed clone. Bucket also does seem to genuinely care about Weevil, so maybe this entire time she's been living in some twisted, weird, romantic fantasy ever since she was a Rocks pirate. Speaking of love stories though, another Rocks pirate ended up in a much better one, and no, I'm not talking about Big Mom's harem. I'm talking about Yaku, aka Shakky. But before we get to Shakky, we have a birthday to celebrate, because the sponsor of this video, Raid Shadow Legends, is celebrating its 4th anniversary. If you don't know already, Raid Shadow Legends is a free-to-play RPG mobile game with lots to offer. Let me spell it out for you. It's a game with millions of players already, so there's always regular updates with new content to keep the game fresh. And the way you play the game is by creating a team of champions to take on different game modes. For example, there's the arena where you can test your strength against other players. Speaking of champions, there's an immense amount of champions to choose from. And this is my favorite part of the game. Creating your own unique team of champions is kind of like creating your own pirate crew in One Piece. It's really exciting getting new champions and improving and growing them through different fun tactical battles. Battles such as the Demon Lord, one of the many challenging clan bosses that rewards you handsomely with powerful resources like shards and gems. And if that doesn't excite you enough, remember that it's also Raid's 4th year anniversary. So there's tons to get excited about with dedicated offers, free gifts, promo codes, and events, including a brand new fusion event where you can get an anniversary themed legendary champion. If you already play the game, you can even reminisce with a recap video of your stats in Raid. Also, for Amazon Prime members who just got Gembo, keep an eye out for the next drop with some powerful Savage gear, which is available from March 2nd to March 30th. So with all that great stuff coming to Raid, now's the best time to get started. If you use my link in the description, you also get some insane bonuses, such as an epic champion, Kellen the Strike, and other useful things like magic potions and XP brews. And once again, since it's Raid's birthday, all players get a bunch of free gifts. Once you're in the game, just enter the promo code 4YearsRaid to get your hands on 4 legendary skill tombs plus some other useful stuff. So go download Raid Shadow Legends by clicking the link in the description, and I'll see you in the battlefield. And now back to Shakky. Now, out of all the members that we will discuss, Shakky is the only one that's not confirmed, but it's speculated that she was part of Rocks, not only because she was active 40 years ago during their time, but also there's this specific SBS question where a fan asked Oda directly if there is a connection, and he Homer Simpson's out of there. Of course, that doesn't confirm anything, especially because we recently found out her origins. It turns out she was actually the Empress of Amazon Lily of 2 generations ago, making her the former captain of the Kuja Pirates. So it could be a case where Oda was teasing about the Rocks Pirates, but it is important to note that a lot of the Rocks Pirates members are former captains. How Rocks was able to get all of these captains we'll discuss later, but Shakky could have been one of the victims that was forced to join. Power-wise, not much is known about Shakky, but the fact that she was the captain of the Kuja pirates and potentially recruited to the Rocks pirates speaks for itself. Personally, I would not be surprised if she has Conqueror's Haki, because she also mentioned being constantly chased by Garp and was probably always battling with the Raja pirates as rivals. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and put Shakky in the A tier of the Rocks pirates. These days though, she's fully retired because Silver's Rayleigh gave her the deadly disease of love sickness. So in the midst of all that fighting, it seems Rayleigh and Shakky were getting in on some other action. And now she's happily retired and just runs a bar in Sabaody and enjoys her life with Rayleigh. Out of all the Rocks pirates, she wouldn't be the most low-key member today because there's also Captain John, who's already dead. And actually, we've already met Captain John all the way back in Thriller Bark, because at some point Captain John's corpse was found by Dr. Hogback, who then modified it into a general zombie for Moria, who the Straw Hats fought and defeated. As far as powers go, Captain John had 2 swords by his waist, so it seems that he was a swordsman that might have used 2-sword style. And given his history, he was definitely a very strong pirate as well, because after his time with the Rocks pirates, he also formed his own crew, was very successful, and amassed a great amount of treasure. But the man was also greedy and tried to keep it all for himself, so he was killed by his own crew. So strength-wise, I would put Captain John in the B tier of being a successful captain, but nothing too special. The most interesting thing about Captain John though is that to this day, his treasure still has not been found, but a certain clown might be getting close, because the map to John's treasure was actually his armband, which was found by Luffy in Thriller Bark and eventually given to Buggy and Impel Down. So while Captain John is dead, he is still quite relevant in the story. The same, however, can't be said about the Rocks pirate named Silver Axe, because that's literally all we know about them. We have no clue what they look like, how strong they are, or even if they actually use the Silver Axe. Can you imagine, like, eventually we find out, like, oh yes, Silver Axe, he was our sniper. We might never find out. Silver Axe could just be a name Oda threw in there to add to the lore of the Rocks pirates. But you never know, because another member named Ochoku or Wang Zhi has actually become relevant in the story. Much like Silver Axe, Ochoku seemed like just a character for the sake of lore because we got no information on him. All we knew was that his name was inspired by a famous Chinese pirate in the 1500s. That's a pretty common thing we see in the story. For example, Captain John was also a famous pirate. Surprisingly though, Ochoku is actually still active in the present time, because he was just recently involved in a mysterious event that happened during the time skip called the Rocky Port Incident. Now, the specifics of this incident are still unknown, but we do know that after the Rocks pirates disbanded, Ochoku took over their base of operations, Hachinosu or Pirate Island. And it was during the Rocky Port Incident that Blackbeard defeated Ochoku and took over Pirate Island. Now, it was also noted that Blackbeard somehow got help from Kobe to win that battle, so that alone I think speaks to Ochoku's strength of being able to fight a current Blackbeard at his age. So power-wise, I think it's likely that Ochoku is one of the stronger Rocks pirates in the A tier. But as far as his future role in the story, I think there are 2 options. Either he has decided to serve Blackbeard after his defeat and is a future villain, or Blackbeard just dusted him and he's more of a cool Easter egg as opposed to an actual character, which I actually think is true for a much more prominent Rocks pirate in Shiki. You see, Shiki is kind of a weird character because he was the main villain for the One Piece movie Strong World. However, Shiki himself is actually a canon character, and this man was a monster. After the Rocks pirates, he also created his own crew, the Golden Lion Pirates, and he didn't just do regular pirate things like gather up treasure. He was a serious rival to someone like Roger. In fact, he initiated the Ed War, where he pulled up with a massive fleet to go up against the Roger pirates, and if it wasn't for a miracle storm that wiped out half of Shiki's fleet, Roger might have not escaped. But that's how you know Shiki was a madman. This man wanted all the smoke and was not afraid of anyone. After Roger's death, he pulled up to Marineford and took on Garp and Sengoku just because he was in denial. He then got tossed and impelled down, but ended up escaping by cutting off both his legs. There's a reason he made it into my top 15 strongest all-time list. I'm putting Shiki in the S tier, which is pretty crazy because he's still out there somewhere ready to take action at any time. Except personally, I just don't think he's going to, because in the actual manga, there's really been no hints at all of Shiki in the present story. In fact, if you never saw the movie or read Chapter 0, you would think Shiki is just like Ochoku and Silver Axe. Who knows, maybe the guy found a therapist and is just living a better life now. Or at least that's what his former Rocks crew member Whitebeard probably would have wanted for him, because Whitebeard, as we know, is a good pirate. Sure, he was still a pirate and kicked ass, probably caught some bodies, but at the end of the day, the man just wanted a family, which is why his involvement in the Rocks Pirates is by far the most interesting, because he had this dream of wanting a family for a long time, back when he might have not even been part of the Rocks Pirates and didn't even have a stubble, let alone a mustache that he calls a beard. Yet somehow he ended up as a core member of the Rocks Pirates, a crew that didn't distinguish between friend or foe. Now, there's several ways this could have happened. First off, we do know that Whitebeard was born in the war-torn country of Sphinx and became a pirate at a young age, so perhaps he got mixed in with Rocks from the beginning and just stuck with him. We do know that Rocks did search for strong, talented individuals, even if they were young, like Kaido, who was just an apprentice. In fact, it was actually Whitebeard that invited Kaido to Rocks in the first place, so maybe that was foreshadowing. So that's certainly one option, but Rocks probably also had ways of forcing people to join that we'll discuss soon. As far as Whitebeard's power though, there's not many questions to answer. The man had everything in his bag. A devastating double fruit power, the highest level of Haki with advanced conquerors Haki. He earned the title of the world's strongest well before the great age of pirates, so he was always competing with Roger at the top. So without question, Whitebeard is not just S tier, but he's going to the top. The only potential stain is that he took an L at God Valley, but we have no idea what happened there. Maybe he switched sides, because he didn't really fit in with this crew, unlike this next Rocks pirate who fit in perfectly, and that is Big Mom. For Big Mom, I think the Rocks pirates really cemented her into who she is today. As we know, Big Mom was actually quite an innocent child with good intentions, it's just that she was far too strong and couldn't control it. And it was really only after meeting Stussy that she was turned into a loose cannon with a twisted perception of morality. So by the time she joined the Rocks Pirates at age 24 or younger, she fit in perfectly with this crew that just destroyed everything. And the crazier thing is, she was still popping out kids while she was on the crew. By the time she left the Rocks Pirates at age 30, she already had 29 kids. Who knows, maybe some of them even belonged to a Choku or Silver Axe. That man said, I'll show you my Silver Axe. Either way, Big Mom definitely feels like she fit right in with that Rocks Pirates lifestyle. And strength-wise, it was no question that she was one of their top combatants. And she's not lacking any abilities either, with a pretty broken Paramecia fruit along with advanced conquerors Haki. So despite the fact she was a little younger on the Rocks Pirates, she was still clearly S tier. That being said, the youngest known Rocks pirate is actually Big Mom's lava swimming partner, Kaido. And out of everyone, I actually think Kaido's connection to the Rocks pirate is the deepest, which is why we didn't really get to see much of his flashback. You see, Kaido joined the Rocks Pirates at just age 15 as an apprentice. So much like how Shanks was shaped by Roger, Kaido was shaped by Rocks. And I think that becomes very evident when you look at Kaido's goals and how he created his crew. First off, we know Rocks is clearly someone he respects, at least in terms of strength. And for Kaido, that's a big deal because strength is what matters a lot to him. His crew is a meritocracy. The stronger you are, the higher you climb. There's not much loyalty there, as members are willing to fight and kill each other and none of them really get along. Also, Kaido has shown he is willing to recruit former enemies as long as they're strong enough. Doesn't it feel like I just described the Rocks Pirates? And it makes even more sense when you think about Kaido's ultimate goal of waging war on the world government. Of course, this stems from his childhood, as he was used as a political piece by his own country just to get into the revelry. I imagine Rocks' ambition and actions to become the king of the world definitely motivated Kaido towards a similar goal. As far as strength goes, Kaido in his prime, like we see in Wano, is obviously a monster, but when he was with the Rocks Pirates, he was only a teenage apprentice. By the time the Rocks Pirates disbanded, he was already 21 years old, so I'd imagine he was already a monster worthy of S tier, but probably near the bottom. I think it was during those times he was still catching some of the 7 L's he took during his entire career. And one person that probably gave him one was his own captain, Roxy Zebek, the most mysterious member of the Rocks Pirates and possibly the strongest person to ever exist. Rocks was the one to gather all of these monsters together, so the first question is, how did he do it? Well, as I've pointed out, a lot of the Rocks Pirates members were former captains. And back in one of the shortest arcs in One Piece, we learned about this game called the Davy Back Fight. A game between 2 pirate crews where if you win, you get to take a member from the other crew, captain included. And the place this game originated from just happens to be Hachinosu, the base of operations for the Rocks Pirates. I think it's clear as ever that Davy Backs are how Rocks gathered his crew, and it would be one of the greatest callbacks to a seemingly irrelevant arc. As for Rocks though, him winning all those Davy Back fights clearly proves his strength. Not only that, but he was also Roger's first rival and committed so many world taboos, the world government erased him from history. His defeat ultimately came during God Valley against Roger and Garp, but once again, again, we don't know the exact events of what happened. Did Whitebeard end up switching sides? Is Rocks maybe even still alive? Whatever the answer is, I still think without a doubt that in terms of power, Rocks is in a tier of his own as the captain of the Rocks Pirates. And if you want to see where he ranked in my top 15 strongest all-time list, you can check out this video.